Hi guys, this is Pete and this is my point of view on Man United's 3-0 win over Charlton in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. So before we get into it, we're going to just do the sponsor. So today's show is sponsored by Ball Tactics. Check out their website for match previews and reviews with some tongue-in-cheek humour and a great insight to the game. The guys are putting out some really good stuff. Check out the preview to the Charlton games out now, so check that out if you've got time, guys. You won't be disappointed. A lot of the stuff makes me laugh, and I'm sure it will make you guys laugh too. So, in this video, we're just going to go into my thoughts on the game briefly. We're going to go into a couple of polls I put out there. I've put out a man of the match poll and a stinker of the match poll because there was a couple of awful performances from United players in that game. And then we'll do player ratings quickly. So my thoughts on the game, obviously it was a tough watch again, a bit like the Everton game was, but we've come out on top. We've won 3-0. I think the start of the game we started well. First 20-25 minutes, I think we started the game well. Eventually we got the goal, Anthony with a superb goal. Lovely finish, great strike. In the first half, I think standout performer was mostly Fred and Garnacho. I think they were the two that had the best first half. Other than the Anthony goal, there wasn't loads and loads of chances to talk about. Like in the team, I think Mainu was a little bit quiet. Obviously, it was his debut. I don't think he was superb, but it wasn't a bad performance for his first performance. Playing for the first team at 17 years old. And I think there's a lot more to come from him. Then we moved into the second half. We come out. Charlton came out much better. Actually, made a couple of chances. No big chance. I think Tom Eaton was good in net. Really steady, calm, and composed. But I think we made a couple of chances. But it wasn't a great start to the half. I think that half only changed once we made some substitutions. Obviously brought Rashford on, brought Ericsson on, brought Casemiro on, and finally after that point we got some real control over the midfield. I think after the first 25 minutes of the first half we lost control in midfield. McTominay was awful today, a really poor performance from him. It was sad to see him getting overrun by a midfield from League One. I don't know whether McTominay's got what it takes to be at United after that performance. It makes me doubt. Obviously he had that little up in form when Casemiro came, but that's long gone now, and his performances have gone back to stale Solskjaer-esque performances, and it's not enjoyable to watch. Another player who performed very poorly for me was Elanga. I forgot he was on the pitch for a lot of the time. Now when we made the changes, we did look a lot better, but the part where we actually looked really good was when we took Elanga off eventually, I think in the 83rd minute. And from the moment he went off and Pellistri came on, the game changed. We just had so much pace and impetus, and we just looked 10 times better. I think Wan-Bissaka had a good game when he came on for Delo. Delo was actually having quite a good game, and then unfortunately it looks like he's got a small injury. I think they took him off as soon as he felt it to take away any risk of him being injured for the City game. I think it was a wise move. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on the game. Obviously, even though we won, it was a little bit of a meh performance because of the fact that, we should be beating a team like that 5 and 6-0, and in the end it took the changes and a great performance from Pellistri and a great performance from Rashford to kind of win us the game. So we'll go to the two polls that I did. So the first one was my man of the match poll that I put out there after every match. So the man of the match poll got 55 votes. The 4 people I put up for there were Anthony, Pellistri, Fred and Rashford. In hindsight, I should have possibly put Garnacho instead of Anthony, even though Anthony did score. Garnacho did have a really good game. and you guys let me know that in the comments. So obviously I'll take that on board for next time. I think I just put Anthony in there because he got the goal, and maybe I should have looked more closely at performances. So, like I said, the 4 people in the poll is Anthony, Palestri, Fred, Rashford. So, in 4th place with 4% of the vote was Anthony. Obviously, he got the goal, got a few votes from people, but it wasn't, again, well, he scored, but it wasn't a great performance from Anthony, just like in the last game, in the Everton game. I'd just like to see him be a bit more confident and try taking people on a little bit more. He shows glimpses and stuff, but I'd like to see him be a bit better. Then in 3rd place with 24% of the vote was Palestri. When he came on, obviously you got to remember the guy was only on the pitch for 12 minutes. Thought he was superb. Just looks direct. Like Garnacho, scares people, running at them, and the fullbacks just look like they don't know what to do when someone's running at them at pace. And I think he had a really good performance, and I'm hoping now that Ten Hag will see the light on him and use him as as an impact sub on that right hand side. I think he definitely can change a game up, and add a bit of impetus to a team, especially if we're struggling in the performance like that. And he came on and he did change things. Then in 2nd place with 25%, between 2nd and 3rd was only 1%, so obviously it was really tight, is Fred. He got 25% of the votes. When they made the substitutions and Fred came off, I was a little bit surprised. I thought McTominay was going to get hooked, but obviously they chose to keep McTominay on the pitch. When McTominay moved slightly further up, he actually did look a little bit better, but obviously still wasn't anywhere near good enough. Then the winner of the poll is Rashford with 47%. Obviously came on, scored 2 goals, was superb. He's the way he has been of late, and you can't argue with it. I think obviously a lot of people in the comments I'm going to read out in a second have said Garnacho should have been man of the match, and in hindsight I should have put him in the poll to give you guys a chance to pick him. But obviously you've gone for Rashford because he wasn't there. So now we're going to go into the comments I got on this. So the first comment I got was from @EN35583701 James, and he said, Garnacho for me was a threat every time he had the ball. And then the next, and I agree with that, he was really good. I think he was just missing a goal or assist. He was unlucky not to get one. I think there was a couple of times that the Charlton keeper made some good saves, and he should have possibly had an assist as well. So he did put in a really good performance, and now in hindsight I should have put him in instead of Anthony. Then the next comment is from @MrCraigmore1, and he said, Rashford just because of the impact he made, but it should be Garnacho in my opinion. Every time he got the ball he was a threat. They didn't give their right back time to breathe. It was a nice 3-0 win, but it doesn't reflect the game. We were very lacklustre in the second half. That is something I totally agree with. I think second half, until we made the changes, we were poor because we was actually overrunning the midfield, which against the League One side is ridiculous, but it is what it is. McTominay is just not cutting the mustard at the moment. And then the last tweet on this is from @ItzyPadson, and he said, Garnacho, he was a menace with his direct running and his ability to kill. Sorry, my writing's a little bit bad on this. To kill his man at a glance. Unlucky to end up without a goal or an assist. Special mention to Mainu and Palestra. Boys show there is a future in the team. It is good to see young players getting chances, and obviously it's something that I'd like to see a bit more. I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see Iqbal, but I think at the point in the game where Ten Hag made the changes, I think the changes he made were the right ones, because I think we needed Casemiro and Eriksen to come on and actually control that midfield, because it was getting away from us. So that's the man of the match poll. Now we're moving to Our stinker of the match poll. Not something I've done before, but with two of the worst performances I've ever seen, I had to do this. It actually got 54 votes, this poll. Your two options were Alanga, who was almost non-existent. Even when he moved on to the right, I don't really remember him touching the ball so much. And McTominay is the other one, who I thought had a dreadful performance. Slightly better when he moved further up the pitch when Eriksen and Casemiro came on, but still not good enough. So in second place in the poll with 24% was McTominay, which I'm a little bit surprised at. I thought it was going to be a lot closer because I thought McTominay was really poor. And with Alanga being a younger player, McTominay being the seasoned pro now, I actually thought that people would have been a lot more harsh to McTominay. And then, obviously, the unfortunate winner of this poll with 76% is Elanga. Just a really poor performance. Don't remember seeing him. Like I said, he stunk the place out. For me, he needs a loan or he needs to be sold. He's just not up to the standard right now. I think there is a player there. If he goes out and plays football regular, gets a chance, maybe it'll help his confidence. I think his confidence is gone. He doesn't seem the same player that came through under Ragnick. And obviously, even then he was over-promoted. We all knew that, but obviously at the time with what happened with Greenwood, it was what needed to be done. But yeah, really poor performance from both of them guys. So I got two quick comments on this. The first one was from Mr. Craig Moore 1, and Craig said, genuinely torn on this one. Both were shocking, but Alanga probably edges it. I forgot he was on the pitch at times. Which is true. There was times when I heard the commentator, I think once, say his name in the first half because he touched the ball once in the box, and I was a bit like, oh yeah, Alanga's playing. Then the last comment on this is from Eileen MUF Fam1, and they said they were both bad, but McTominay edged it for me because he's the senior player, and I expect more. He's gone back to how he was under Ole now. Yeah, I've said that as well. I think when Casemiro came in, he had kick up the arse and actually put in some really good performances, and made me think, oh, actually he can play defensive midfield. But now again, he's gone back to his usual self, and it's a bit sad to see. So they're the two polls that I put out there on Twitter. Thanks for interacting as always, guys. I really appreciate anyone that comments on there, and obviously I try to shout you guys out as much as possible, trying to make this a community. Obviously I've said this now on the last couple of videos, and it'll be nice when I can start doing live YouTube, so then I can get you guys actively in the comments. That'll be nice, and I think good for the content. So now we're just going to quickly go into my match ratings. So we start off with Tom Heaton. I'm going to give Heaton a 7. Didn't have loads to do, but I think he was a really calm presence compared to the performance that Dubravka put in the Carabao Cup. I actually think this was a very good performance compared to that. That's why he's getting a 7. He just calm, steady, collecting the balls good from corners, throwing out the ball pretty quick, very vocal. You could hear him all the time, and I just think it was a good performance, obviously for his first official proper game that he's started for us since he came back to the club. Oh, pardon, froze a little bit off. Then we move to right back. Obviously, starting right back was Dalot, who got injured early on. I actually thought he was having a really good performance. I'm just going to give him a 6 because he went off so early. But yeah, I feel like he was playing well. He was making a lot of overlapping runs. He was, helping out Anthony. He was working really well together, and then unfortunately he got injured. He went off. Normally I don't do this. I do the subs after, but because Wan-Bissaka came so early, I'm going to now include him into near the start. So Wan-Bissaka, who also played at right back, obviously came on for Dalot. I'm going to give Wan-Bissaka a 7. I actually thought he was really good. I've been impressed with the performance I've seen from him. He's a lot better going forward now. He's a lot more involved in the play and the things that we do. He's making a lot of good runs, like inside right, and getting involved in the play and dragging defenders about. And I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from him. And defensively, he's very solid. Like defensively, it's never been a problem. It's been the attacking side, and he does seem to be improving on that. So obviously, that's a bonus, so that we've got a good backup to Delon now. Now we'll move on to right centre back Maguire. I'm going to give Maguire a steady 6. His passing was good today. He hit quite about 8 or 9 long balls to feet to Garnacho that were all really good, and I give him props for that. And by Maguire, obviously I mean Meg Snail. Forgot that then. Some of the passing that he did was decent. I think there was only one ball that he played out that completely missed the player. But then there was a few times where he just got caught out of position. There was the part where he got megged and decided to turn into a linebacker and absolutely clean the player out. And I just think his lack of pace is a really big problem. I call him McSnail. Obviously, I've said before, he's got the turning circle of a tugboat. He's got cement in his boots. He's so slow. His acceleration's so slow. He doesn't accelerate nowhere near quick enough to be a defender that plays a high line. And just unfortunately, like I keep on saying, I just don't see a long-term future for him at the club. I think, like I've said before, lower down the table for a team like a Leicester where he came from, a team like that, from sixth down, I think he can do a really good job, but I just don't think he can do it at United. Then moving on next to him, Martinez, a 7. He did look a little bit rusty, understandable. Obviously, he won the World Cup and then he was obviously living it up for a fair few days after. I bet he partied hard. Obviously, he would after winning the World Cup. And I think there was a little bit of rustiness in the game, but also we've seen some superb passing, some tenacious tackling from him, and I think it's enough to get him a 7. And I hope, obviously, him getting those minutes in his legs will benefit him for when we play City at the weekend. Then moving into left back, Teo Malacia, I'm going to give a 7. I was actually quite impressed with Malacia in this game. He was quite attacking. He kept it up. That's the first time I've seen him really, push on and attack constantly like Luke Shaw does, and I think it was nice to see. And it shows that on that side we've got a good backup for Luke Shaw, obviously in case he gets injured or anything. And I thought it was a good performance from him. Then we move into the midfield. Obviously, first we'll start with McTominay. I'm going to give McTominay a 3 for today's performance. I honestly didn't enjoy it at all. He gave the ball away quite a lot. He was very sloppy in possession. There was actually a time where he passed the ball straight to one of their players and gave up a chance. And I, at that point in my football group chat, I was saying he's going to cost us the game. And then when Ten Hag didn't take him off, I was actually quite upset because I thought, how can you take fella who actually had, for me, a good performance, especially first half, and leave McTominay on? But obviously McTominay is the more defensive-minded out of the two, and I think that's why he stayed on. But then, obviously, he got moved further up the pitch anyway, so it was a surprise. Then we move on to, like I said, he's a 3 for me, McTominay. We're going to move on to Fred, who I'm going to give an 8. I actually thought Fred was really good. Got an assist, used the ball really well, very tenacious as always. I've seen a bit of an upturn in Fred's performances, and I'm enjoying seeing it, because there is a player deep down in there sometimes. He remembers his Brazilian passport sometimes, but it's like half the time he forgets he's Brazilian, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm Brazilian. I can play football. I'm actually good." He hit the post with a free kick when he took over corners from Malacia, because Malacia hit 2 awful corners in. He actually was putting the ball on the money, and I thought he performed well. So that's where he gets an 8 from me. Pardon about the yawning. And then we'll move into the 10 position, Kobe Mainoo. I don't want to be too harsh on the lad. I thought he had a quiet game. I'll just give him a steady 6. I don't think he was superb. He was a little bit ineffectual, but it's his debut. He's 17 years old. I think there is definitely a player there. For me, he's a player that I'd send out on loan for this second half of the season and give him a chance to play men's football. I think keeping him with the 23s and giving him the odd appearance for us in cups isn't what he needs. I think he needs to be playing week in, week out, and you'll see a massive improvement in him. I think there's a high ceiling there if he can go out now and get get that men's football in right now. If a team will take a risk on him, because obviously I understand he's 17, he's quite young. But, you know, a championship, even a League One team, just a team where you can go out and play week in, week out, I'd be really happy with. Even League Two, if you sent him to Salford, I think that'd benefit him, because it's a rough old league, that League Two. So possibly, you know, send him there and get him playing week in, week out will benefit him massively. So right hand side, Anthony, I'm going to give Anthony an 8. 7.5 actually, we'll give him a 7.5, which is now why I should have really put him in my man of the match poll, because I'm going to give Garnacho a high score. I've obviously scored the goal, and at times was good, but again a little bit drag backwards pass. You know, sometimes that works because he is creating space for the overlap of the fullback and things like that, or for a run inside. So I get why he does it, but sometimes I just wish he'd take people on. And he is very, very left-footed. You can see he always wants to cut inside. Players know what he's going to do, but obviously sometimes I don't think they can stop him. If he can consistently cut inside and hit screamers like he did today, it'll be like the Robin situation where you know what he's going to do every time, but you just can't stop him. If he's as good as Arjen Robben was for Chelsea at doing that, and then for Bayern, obviously then you're not going to argue. But it's just, we're going to have to see development and improvement in him. But like I said, he scored a goal and it wasn't a terrible performance, 7.5. So now we move on to that left-hand side. Garnacho, who I'm going to give an 8. Really direct, really good on the ball. Gave their right back a torrid time. You know, think he should have mostly scored and possibly got an assist. Really good performance, and it's the first time I've seen him start and put in a good performance. Obviously we were playing lower league opposition, but it's just nice to see him actually show that he can do it from a starting position. Now we move to Elanga, who I'm going to give a 1. I thought he was absolutely awful, and I don't want to jump on his back because he's a young kid, but he just showed why he needs a loan. He shouldn't be starting for Man United. He shouldn't be on the bench for Man United. At the moment, he should be out at a League One Championship level club, playing every week, putting on muscle, you know, learning how to be stronger, learning that he doesn't get all the time in the world on the ball, because that's what I noticed tonight. Every time Elanga got the ball, he wanted 3 or 4 touches, and he was just under pressure and was losing the ball. It wasn't good enough for him. I bet he only touched the ball about 10-15 times in the entire game, and it was like playing with 10 men. So that's why he gets a 1, and I feel really bad because he's only a kid. So I'm hoping that he can get out on loan second half of the season possibly, and we can see a development in him. I think there is a player there if he goes out and he improves. But to be starting for United right now, it's not what he needs. We'll quickly jump into the subs, because obviously the subs did make a big difference. I've already discussed Wan-Bissaka because he came on so early. So the subs that were made, Eriksen came on. Thought Eriksen actually was pretty good. Created quite a few chances. Going to give him a 7. You know, he just gives us that guile in midfield, and he makes things work. He makes us play faster. Thought it was a really good performance. Casemiro, I'm going to give 7.5. Obviously got an assist. Absolute will, the assist for the Rashford second goal. And he came on, he used his experience, you know, he's breaking up the play, some good passes, and he just offers us so much. So Casemiro, 7.5. Then Rashford, who is my man of the match, I'm going to give a 9. He was on the pitch for 30 odd minutes, scores 2 goals. You know, didn't really super get involved in the play. There was a couple of like decent runs with the ball where he took on a few people, but mainly it was his finishing. Showed himself to be a quality finisher, a proper predator, and he obviously scored 2 goals. So for me, my man of the match. And then the last player, Palestra, who amazingly only had about 12 minutes on the pitch, but I'm going to give an 8.5. For me, he would have been my joint second with Garnacho possibly for man of the match. I think he was absolutely superb when he came on. He's a player that I don't understand why we haven't given a chance to, because every time I've seen him, when I've seen him play for Uruguay, he's ripped it up, and I think he needs to play. Even if, you know, we use him as as an impact sub, he'll be perfect. Like, I think Garnacho's a perfect impact sub, and Fred too. They've just got loads of energy. They're very, you know, they just lift up your energy levels at a time in games when you'll be struggling. I think if we put this lad on, you know, last 20 minutes of a game, he's gonna really get at defenders like Garnacho does, and he's gonna upset the apple cart, create chances, score goals. So I hope he doesn't go. I read something before that he wants to go on loan in January, but I want him to stay and actually have an effect on the team, because I think he can do. So I think that's. Let me just check. That's all the subs. Yeah, that's all the subs done. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Obviously, do me a favour, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If anyone's new watching and you've got all the way to the end, thank you so much, because I know a lot of the times people click off pretty quick. I'm really appreciating anyone who's watching. Obviously, United are a big love of mine, and I'm just enjoying sharing my opinion with other Reds. So I really appreciate anyone that tunes in. Thanks a lot, guys. Now, obviously, I think the next video will be a match preview for the City game at the weekend, which I'll get onto most probably Friday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If there's any transfer developments, I'll mostly do a video. If Weghorst signs, I'll do a quick video on that. So there might be a video before then. But obviously, if you do subscribe, put on the notification bell so you know when I'm posting videos. Obviously, I'd really appreciate that. So thanks again for watching, guys. Peace. Cheers.